Hello. Give people a few minutes to check in. My name is Pete Friedman. I'm the founder and publisher of CentralTrack.com. We are back with our quarantine Q&A. We are running a few minutes late. We just getting a story up on the site real quick. So we apologize for the delay, but we're going to be joined tonight by a really cool guest. His name is Symbolyc. He is a Dallas-based hip-hop producer. He has done some incredible work with the likes of Kanye West, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Eminem. Basically, like, there's a big name rap act, or pop act, really, of the last, I don't know, 20 years. He's kind of worked with them recently, including the song Power by Kanye, which is like the #1 trailer song of the last decade. We're going to catch up a little. He's got a new book on the way, or it's actually out already, I believe. So we're going to talk about that and just catch up a little, talk about his career, talk about his work with Erykah Badu on her quarantine concert series, and just catch up. So I'm looking forward to that. It should be really fun. He should be joining us any minute. I see a lot of familiar faces in here. Let me scroll through real quick. What's up to... Oh, geez, a lot of people. What's up, Kirk? See you, Vogue Machine. We see you, Robski. We see you, Mother Tongues. See you, Matt Lindner. It's been a crazy day in Dallas media. Jim Schutz, longtime columnist of the Morning News, just announced that the Dallas Observer, just announced that he's no longer working with them. So we got a story up on the site about that right now. So please check that out. But I hope you stick with me. It's going to be a lot of fun catching up with Symbolyc, who I've had the pleasure of covering for 12 years now, and just watching his ascent. It's been really exciting. So this should be really cool. Let's see. We have a couple cool stories coming out tomorrow that I hope you guys keep an eye on, including the closure of at least one cherished Dallas live music venue. The news is already out there, so you can probably kind of guess it, but we've got some quotes from the owner about what happened and how the coronavirus pandemic has affected that. I see some of you are not wearing pants. It's your decision, man. I am wearing pants. My mom has been watching these, and she told me that I should be wearing a collared shirt, so that's why I'm rocking this guy. Tomorrow, I will be joined by the editor of the Dallas Morning News, Mike Wilson. That's really exciting. I'm not 100% sure we have booked for later on in the week, but we do have next week. We've got Imani McGee-Stafford of the Dallas Wings, or formerly of the Dallas Wings. I'm really excited about that because she just stepped away from her role as the team's center to go to law school. So that's really interesting. She also does a lot of work with mental health, which I think is something we're all concerned with at this time. We will also be next week talking with Gabe Sanchez of Black Swan Saloon, who will be showing me how to make some quarantine cocktails at home. What's up, Narco? Once again, we're going to be joined tonight by Symbolyc, or S1, as he's kind of known around the city. He should be joining us any minute here. I think, I was talking to his wife a few minutes ago, and I think he and I were in the same position where we were trying to figure out when to eat. So I'm pretty sure he's doing that right now. Maybe grabbing in a few more bites before joining. Let me make sure I just didn't miss him popping up in here. I am on the Central Track account, right? I didn't accidentally do this from my personal one, did I? I hope not. Let's see. No, I think I'm on the Central Track one, so that's good news. What's going on with you guys in the meantime? I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. I'm doing okay. It's kind of tough not to feel like I'm going a little stir crazy. I think we're all feeling that, like 7 weeks into this thing? So hopefully these Q&As that we've been doing have been a nice little respite from all of this It's just kind of a fun thing that we thought we could do, and nothing too crazy. Just open up our Rolodex and get some cool people to come talk with us and with you. I see there is a question box. I know Alec has used that a couple times in his. I have not. You guys, it should be like right here or maybe here on your screen. You're welcome to throw in some questions there. I can't promise that I'll get to them. Kind of depends on our guests and how long they're willing to talk for. But feel free if you have any questions to, you can throw them in the comments along here, or you can toss them in there. Let's see. Here is S1, so I'm going to view and accept.
Yo, yo.
There it is. What's up, man?
How you doing, man?
I am doing really, really good. It's good to see your face. It's good to see a friendly
Man,
face.
it's good to see your face as well, man. I'm just glad to see people.
Same. That's kind of why we set this up, right? It's we thought it'd be a cool thing. We've been doing it for about 2 weeks now, this Instagram interview series, and we just thought it'd be a cool way to kind of maybe selfishly on our level just reconnect with some people, but also just a good, it's a good chance to provide some maybe distraction for our readers, and also, just show a little bit of the relatability of what we're all in this together. So,
Yes.
I know you've got. But just real quick, let's reset. Let's tell people who you are. You are Symbolyc One, a Grammy and multiple just award-winning platinum hip-hop producer who's worked with, I was saying before, everyone from Kanye, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Eminem. I mean, the list goes on, and we can get into some of that. Looks like I hope I didn't just lose you there. Oh, there you are. You're still there.
Okay, now I'm back.
Yeah. But I go back with you because I remember when I first came across you, you were a member of the, I think, Waco-based rap group, Strange Fruit Project. Strange Fruit, I think.
That's correct.
Being a clear reference to the Billie Holiday song and whatnot. And I think that's kind of an aesthetic and just like a attitude that has gone throughout much of your stuff. Let's get into some of that in a minute. But where are you right now? Are you at home?
Yes.
And where's home?
Yeah, so I'm home. Home is Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
Been here I've been living in Dallas for or since 2001.
Yeah.
So this is home as well. Of course, I was born and raised in Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been here in the house, not going too many places each day. Just kind of just in here and trying to figure things out like everybody else.
Now, artists like yourself, right? I mean, I imagine you've got a home studio and you can just lock yourself away in this. Mm-hmm. Is that something that's maybe a little bit of a comfort through all this? Like, I mean, you're working from home anyway, I imagine. Right?
Yes, that's funny you say that because I was just having a conversation with somebody and I was telling them that it's really nothing different from my everyday, because like you was just saying, I do work from home. However, I think it's just a mental thing of because prior we wasn't able to, not being able to go somewhere when you want to go.
Yeah,
it kind of affects you.
It's just the inability. Exactly, the inability to go, like
absolutely.
Just that, like
absolutely. So that's been playing a part in like just the just being inspired. So the inspiration is in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's interesting though. So I imagine you're still like you've been working on beats and whatnot throughout all this time.
Correct.
I know just from talking to you and other producers, the life of a beat between its like initial creation to by the time it's heard by the public can go through a lot of iterations. Mm-hmm. I wonder how much you're working on stuff you've been working on beforehand, or if you have found any inspiration in what's going on.
I mean, yeah, like really the first 2 weeks was really good because, first off, I was in the middle of my book tour. I was planning New York, like a week in New York to do book signings and promo, and then Nashville, and all of that was completely halted. So I'm at the crib, and the first 2 weeks was actually amazing because like the first
Really?
3 days, it was like, okay, let's figure this out. Let's kind of just take it easy. And then I got back into this creative mode to where I just locked myself in the studio and I made some really, really great stuff that I probably wouldn't have made if I wasn't locked in like that. Because the one thing about moving around so much and like having to travel here and having that, you don't really have that quality time to really just lock in and create.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing about being a creator and creating is, you know, it usually doesn't just happen. You know, it usually takes a little time to get into a flow and kind of build and find some inspiration. So with me being locked in like that for just consistently every day, I could tell every day I was just kind of had that laser sharp focus.
Yeah, kind of distraction free, right?
Yes, and the distractions were, yeah, because it was no distractions. So it actually gave me a little bit of superpowers, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So that was the first 2 weeks, though. I mean, how productive have you been throughout this entire time?
Well, after that 2 week period, I hit a wall to where it became, and I think it was just my anxiety and the fear of seeing everything going on. We started looking at the news and seeing different cases and people passing away and having friends that were having people close to them passing. It started to really affect me. You know, so in those situations, it's just like, okay, step away, you know, kind of do other things, you know. So we kind of, you know, Vaughn is living here, and of course my wife. So we started just doing little other stuff like playing Monopoly and you know, taking walks. We take a walk every day in the neighborhood and just doing different things to kind of get your mind clear of that and then come back to the creative process.
Well, what's interesting, and this is part of why I wanted to have you on, is because I knew you had a lot of kind of stuff to say at the moment, because you do have a book that just came out.
Yes.
So what's the name of the book and what is it about? Can you just
so the book is called Pray, Focus, Plan, Execute. Is this right here? Yeah, Pray, Focus, Plan, Execute, and it's basically just my memoir of my life story. And each chapter just highlights a specific moment of my career and of my life, you know, whether it be, you know, situations of me growing up or first getting into music or working with the Beyonce or being in studio with Kanye or Jay-Z or whoever, you know. So each chapter highlights a specific story. And what I wanted to accomplish within each story is really being able to show people that that I had people see like my plaques and, you know,
we see them
I've been able to accomplish. Yeah, they see my work, but they don't know the failures in between those spaces to get to those moments. So I wanted to make sure within my memoir that I highlighted and made that the priority. And
that's really important.
Like the sacrifices and the trials and the failures, and I wanted that to be the forefront of the book, highlighting the process of getting to the wins. Yeah,
the process is something that gets lost in a lot of the discussion. I think, especially because, you know, you see a lot of young like producers who get success really young right away. You know, they're like 21-year-old kids, and suddenly they're everywhere. And then you've also, you know, people don't see the failure, and I think that's something that I think a lot of like young creatives in Dallas and the Dallas music scene, for instance, maybe really need to hear, because I know there's such like want for immediate credit and immediate success.
Yes,
but that's not your story.
Yeah, that's definitely not my story. I always say
you put in a lot of time before the Kanyes and Jay-Z's and Beyonce's.
And you know, I think I was.
Let's say how long were you, like, how long was Strange Fruit a thing?
Okay, so Strange Fruit Project we started that back in, I say 1999, 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind if I have a beer while we do this.
And you know, Strange Fruit Project, we started that, and then we released our first project 2002, around 2002, 2003, around that time. And yeah, I mean, we started doing that, and what's great about that is like we had some really great success on the underground with that, you know. So,
you guys were kind of getting a little love on like the early blogosphere era stuff, like a lot of underground blogs. Yeah,
absolutely, like the OK Player and underground hip hop, And then from there, like people started to take notice of people that we were influenced by, like Questlove, and of
Yeah.
course it led to like Erykah Badu and like Lil Brother and all these
Yeah.
groups that we were influenced by, and that just took a life of its own as well.
And that opened up a lot of
That
doors. So,
opened up a lot of doors. Yeah.
including locally, I think one thing that if people don't know you from your music, they might recognize you from seeing you on stage with Miss Badu.
Yes.
You know, you because had you worked with her prior to the formation of the cannabinoids, or was that really the start of it?
No, actually, I worked with her because she became a fan of Strange Fruit Project.
Okay.
So our third album, she wanted to work with us, so she hopped on a song. We have a song called Get Live.
Yeah.
She shot the video with us. So that was our first initial time working with her, you know. And then from there, I just was able to build a relationship with her, and you know, she's just like my sister. And
Yeah.
from there came the cannabinoids and so on.
Well, you've been working with her, I mean, for what, like a decade plus now, right?
Yeah, it's been some time. Probably
I
like
think
since
the cannabinoids,
2007.
yeah, cannabinoids formed, I think, around 2010, because that was when I was at the Observer,
Yeah,
and
that
I'd
sounds
been in
right.
town for a little bit. I think that might have been the first time you and I met, because the cannabinoids were the house band at the Dallas Observer Music Awards that I was throwing
Yes.
that year,
Yeah,
and you
so
guys were
that was
amazing.
around 2010 then. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great time. But you've been, you know, she has so many different iterations of her live setup. There's like the band with like RC and all them, and then she'll do the cannabinoid stuff, and sometimes it'll be a mixture of all of it. I know throughout all of this right now, she's been getting a lot of attention
Yes.
for her quarantine concerts.
Yes.
Have you been involved in those in any way? And if so, what way?
No, I haven't. You know, when she was doing that, I was on like the strict lockdown. I wasn't going
Okay,
anywhere.
you're
Yeah,
just like, nope.
so what's crazy is like we're in a group text. Like we
Yeah,
talk every day, like
yeah,
Badu and Noids,
yeah.
and you know, we're in a group text. And usually for those events, she'll usually send us a text and be like, "I'm doing this. Like, who need a few of
Yeah.
y'all? Who's down to do it?" Yeah,
Assemble Avengers, right? Yeah.
yeah. But I was just like, man, I'm not trying to play with this stuff right
Okay.
now.
So I'm sure that you watched it. I mean, I mean, she's really been turning a lot of heads with this
Oh
stuff.
yeah, she has, and then of course the legendary versus battle with her and Jill Scott was
Yeah.
amazing Saturday.
Who'd you have winning that?
Man, of course I have to ride with Badu. However, both of them are like so iconic, and not only iconic, they really like going through that catalog and just that day. It made me realize how much of a part they were of my journey. Just listening to those songs, and it
Yeah.
took me back to certain moments of when I was, you know, whether I was becoming inspired by them or studying their music or just being in certain places in my life and in my career. It took me back to those moments, you know. So it made me realize like how important they were. Their music and their art has been to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think because listening to your music, I think there's a real soulfulness that
Mm-hmm.
comes through Jill and Erica's music, but then also real mindfulness.
Yes.
And I mean soulfulness both in terms of like sonic spirit, but also like literal.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a lot of soul sample stuff throughout
Yes. Yeah.
your stuff as
Actually,
well.
around the time like when we first dropped the first Strange Fruit Project album, those are the albums I was listening to. I was listening to Jill Scott Strong, like her first album. Of course, Baduism, and then Mama's Gun being like my favorite Badu album of all time. Like that, and the whole Soul Aquariums from like Slum Village, Jay Dilla, The
Yeah.
Roots. You know that
Yeah.
that was like my top tier.
Yeah, that's like foundational S1
Yes,
music,
that
right?
was foundation for me.
So then it seems to me like, you know, you were on a really strong path creatively for a while there, like around the turn of the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the real turning point where, you know, I'd been a fan of yours and we'd met and discussed for a
Mm-hmm.
while. I'd written about you. And I was just like, he's doing some good stuff. He's producing good stuff. But the real turning point, I think, when everyone maybe turned their heads, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Power with Kanye was like the one.
Absolutely, yeah. That was the song that really changed my whole family's life, and then my career. You know, just the whole direction of my career just
So
Yeah.
without getting, I imagine that some of this is in the book, and we can refer people to the book, so we don't have to get into too detail. And we can kind of say up front that obviously there's greater detail in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But just for those who are watching, to give them a little taste, how did that even come to be? Like, how did the Kanye thing even? Like, how did your stuff get on his radar?
Yeah, it was crazy. So, you know, it was one of those things where every little thing that I was doing, whether it was a Strange Fruit project, which was leading me, every little thing that I was doing was leading me to the next phase or the next point in my career. You know,
Yeah.
so like I was saying,
The
Strange
process,
Fruit project.
the process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It was connecting the dots. So, you know, the putting the Strange Fruit project album out was like probably the most beneficial thing that I could have done of my career, because at that moment I planted a seed and I put that out into the world, not knowing who was going to get a hold of it, not knowing who the music was going to touch. And, you know, it wind up, you know, doing really great things, from like connecting with the Questlove and then Erykah. And then also it led me to working with some of my good friends now, little brother, Ninth Wonder, Fonte, and Rapper Pooh. So my relationship with them led me to working with Rhymefest. And as you know, Rhymefest is like a prolific writer who works with Kanye very strong, you know, by
Jesus
co-writing. Yeah, he co-wrote Jesus Walks and Glory with Common, you know. So my music was introduced to him, and I started working with him on his project. And then there was one particular situation to where he was working on this album, and he was at the end of his budget, so he kind of ran out of money for being able to finish his album up. So he was like, "Yo, S1, I love your beats, but I want to ask you if I can pay you for 2 beats, but if you can give me these other 2 beats." So he wanted 4 total. And I wasn't tripping. I was like, yeah, just pay me for those 2 beats and I'll give you these other 2.
That's a tough thing for a young producer to reconcile, because that's like the old adage of exposure versus money.
Yes.
But it sounds like you were willing to take that risk.
Absolutely. I was willing to take that risk. And a couple of months later, he hits me up and he's like, "Yo, I'm in the studio with Kanye. If you have any beats, send them over. And if I get the opportunity, I'll try to play them for him." So send him some beats over. And I didn't hear from him. So I automatically thought at that moment that either Kanye didn't like the stuff or maybe he just didn't get the time to play them for him. But a couple of weeks later, man, I get this text and from Rhymefest, and it says, "Kanye just said he's loving your stuff. He's about to change your life." And that's the text I received, man. And a few days later, I'm out in Hawaii working on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Yeah, and that was out recorded out in Hawaii. Was that the one Rick Rubin was working on too, as well?
Well, that was Jesus.
Okay, so but that was at the Hawaii pad.
Mm-hmm.
So a little behind the scenes, right? So Power, I don't think I can play it because I think we'll get kicked off Instagram Live, even though you have the right. But you know, Power, I think it's an instantly recognizable song. It just kind of became like the go-to movie trailer song for a little while there.
Yes.
The King Crimson sample is just such a left turn that I don't think anyone would have expected to turn into like a hip hop beat.
Yeah.
But I also know that when a beat is kind of procured by an artist, especially an artist who does a lot of his own production too, that there can be additional flourishments that get added. So you get flown out to Hawaii based off something that you had put together. What's then the next step when you're there? Are you guys working the song more?
Yes.
Or is it just like okay, how does that happen? What changes get made?
So when I sent the music, sent the beats to Rhymefest, he played it in the studio for Kanye. Kanye's losing his mind, and by the time I get to Hawaii, he already has vocals on it. Kanye's like, "Yo, I gotta play you this joint. I recorded to one of your joints already. I'm gonna play it for you." So he played it for me, and it was Power. However, it was kind of stripped down, and his verses were completely different. The chorus was completely different. And
what
but it was still
did you have it called? Like the file name? Like, were you calling it Power? What were you calling it?
No. The file name was called Afro America.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Afro America because that's where the sample was from.
Okay.
Yeah, the sample,
Like the beat, the
the
bass
sample
beat.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just titled it from that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so he had already recorded vocals, and he was like, "Yo, I want you to stay out here. I'm working on this album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I love for you to be a part of it." So, so every day he would pull that song. He would do basically how he would work is he would just have these multiple rooms working with different producers in the rooms,
Yeah.
and we just bouncing back and forth, and everybody's contributing ideas and that sort. So every day he would just pull songs up. So every day he was pulling Power Up, having
Yeah.
different people try different choruses on it. You know,
So really
having of course like
collaborative.
Mike Dean come in and play different things, or Jeff Basker was there, who was
Okay.
also credited as additional producer on the track as well. And yeah, just trying things and pulling
Would
things, keeping things, taking some things away until he got it to, okay, this is it. This is it.
well, okay, so that's, when you made that song, that beat yourself,
Mm-hmm.
were you like, this is something special, or was it
Yes,
something like,
I knew it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy because I knew, and it's one of those things that where as soon as I
so
heard it,
way before Rhyme Fest, you're like, I got something, and that's why you sent it to Rhyme Fest.
yes, and I wasn't. What's crazy is I wasn't even gonna send it because I had already did that for Rhymefest. I did that beat for Rhymefest's next album. I was like, yo, this sounds like something that would be dope for him. So when I'm at my
Oh, so you
computer,
created it with Rhyme Fest in mind.
I'll create it with him in
Yeah,
mind. I'm like,
wow.
yo, this could be dope. But when Rhymefest hits me and say, yo, send me some beats for Kanye, I'm at my computer and I'm going through beats. I'm pulling beats in a folder, and that one beat was sitting on my desktop, and I played it, and I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead and it was literally the last beat I threw in that folder. So
Wow.
I pulled the beat off my desktop and threw it over there, and I was like, I can always make Rhymefest something else if Kanye likes it. So I threw it in the folder, and that was one of the ones he was like, yo, this is
Do you remember? I mean, it sounds like you were all about it from the beginning, so you were confident about it. But I think one like just the opening kind of like drums of that song, and also just the sample hook are so huge. But I think the third element that really kicks that off is just the "No one man should have all that power" line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was that initially there when you flew out to Hawaii, or was that something that got workshopped? Do you remember when you first heard it? Because
No,
that, like, to me, when I first heard it,
it wasn't in the song when I originally got there. So the first
okay,
chorus of Power, when I first got out there and played it, Kanye had chopped up voice clips from all these different Marvel movies. And basically it was like power. It was like different voices that he literally chopped from different movies, and he pasted it.
wow,
He pasted it and chopped it in a sense to where it all made sense with what he was saying, in and out with what he was
yeah,
saying. So that was the first chorus, and then, like I said, that duration of me being out there, he was just having different people come in and try certain things. And I wasn't there when he did the "No one man has got the no one man has
should have all
got
that
that."
power.
Yeah,
Okay.
but Malik told me he was in the studio. Malik Youssef, he
Yeah.
was in the studio with them, and they were watching Malcolm X.
Okay.
And there's a scene in the movie to where someone says, "No one man
Yeah.
should have all that power," and he was like, "That's it." And they
I mean,
put
that
that
makes
there.
sense because Kanye loves a pop culture reference.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
loves a pop culture reference. So then so like you were saying, that song really did open up all kinds of doors for you. And I think like I remember when the album dropped, I mean, it was such a phenomenon. And then I was looking at the credits and I saw your name and I was just like, what the hell? Because that's got to be a tough thing to sit on. But at the same time, you're already kind of like you're in the playing field, right? At that point, you're already starting to maybe have the door open to folks like Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yeah, it was a dope time because not only were people coming, like once that song dropped, people were coming from me, labels flying me out, and publishing companies, but also Kanye had so many joints. I knew that because one thing I did is like I told myself I didn't want Power to be like the only song that, you know, people have this one song and then you don't
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
about it anymore.
yeah.
So
You got to spin it into something else.
yes, I was working like crazy. So Kanye was my main priority. I was like, okay, now that I've worked with him and I have his contact, I'm literally gonna send him beats every day or every other day. So I was just sending them, and he would hit me
Like
back like, "Yo, hold
unsolicited.
these two for me, hold this one for me." So I know I knew he had like 10 to 15 beats ready and some
Yeah.
recorded. So he was very invested. I was very invested in what he was doing. So at that
What?
point, he was like, "Yo, I want you to be part of the team. Like, I got all these records. You might as well just be over here." So that's when I wind up doing a deal with his Very Good Beats
Yeah.
production company. And after that moment, I was just always with him. So we was working on Watch the Throne album, and you know, working on that album. Beyonce was around, so that's how I was able to connect
Yeah.
with her and fly out to New York to work on her album, and you know,
And
just
then
all these things
you get
because I was,
credits like, yeah, you get credits like that, and then it's just
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
else.
And I was meeting so many people just being around him because people
Yeah.
was coming to the studio, and then he introduced me to people, and it was just crazy.
I think people have a real sense of, uh, well, I don't know that they do actually. Like, what is it like to collaborate with the Kanye West?
Oh, it's amazing, man. Like I really like it was one of those things that prior to working with him,
Yeah.
I remember being on the flight out to Hawaii to work with him for the first time and just thinking to myself like, yo, what is, you know, just having all these thoughts of like what it is
Yeah.
gonna be like to work with him. You
Yeah.
know,
His
because
reputation
you hear
precedes
these
him for
things and
sure, right?
you
Yeah.
hear all these different things. So it's like, man, is it gonna be so it was a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety. But once I started working with him, I was like, oh, he's like super cool,
Yeah.
super passionate, of course, but like super cool and super just unselfish in the studio.
Is there? I mean, I think one thing that I think young people struggle with all the time, but then also like young journalists in my field all the time struggle with is there's like this like magical notion of like celebrities, right? And at a certain point, like you just realize they're just like me and you. Like,
Absolutely.
they've got their own struggles. They create the same way.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably something that your eyes open to throughout that process.
Absolutely, man. And I think, like I say, it was just because I was around so much, so it just became just, oh, that's
Yeah.
Kanye. You know, I like literally sleeping at his crib, you know, going play basketball with him every day, eating dinner with him every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
How's,
just
how's
became,
Kanye as a hooper?
what was that?
How's Kanye's hoop game?
Oh, he actually can hoop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we've been talking a lot about this moment, was that like when did Dark Twisted Fantasy come out? Like, but this all was like around like turn of the decade, right?
It was like 2010.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking about 10 years ago, but you have not slowed down. I mean, you've got a lot of credit since then throughout all this.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just? I mean, you spoke to this a moment ago when you're like, I have to turn this into another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just your own personal work ethic? Or is that something you've seen from other producers or people who like almost made it? Like what? Like how have you kept that fire going?
Well, I think it was just the point of like when I first started, just my work ethic. Once I realized that no one's going to be more invested in me than me,
Yeah.
then that kind of changed my whole perspective because it's like, okay, I have to be self-sufficient and I have to be able to get things done regardless of anybody. And that's really what the Strange Fruit days were. It was like
Yeah.
me literally producing the whole albums, pressing
Yeah.
the album up, you know, literally mixing the album by myself, doing all these things and learning in the process. So it's like, okay, I have this machine mentality of getting it done regardless of who's gonna help me, and that's just kind of just stayed with me the whole way because I want to be able to, you know, and it's great to be able to have now I have of course like a team and I
Yeah.
collaborate with people and that helps greatly and that's the way to go. But I'm
That,
so glad that starting out, I learned every aspect of what I
yeah.
need
Yeah.
to know to be able to get something done and be able to start just planting these seeds.
Yeah. You had the foundation of the work
Yes.
ethic in place,
Mm-hmm.
but I was going to ask, and you hinted at it with your team. what is like the business of Symbolic One look like at this point? I mean, I know your wife is kind of involved, is like kind of manager, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah. Actually, my whole family, of course, like my youngest son, Vaughn, he's producer, so he's working on his own
He's a good
projects
producer too.
with his own artists, and then also with major artists as well. And then, of course, my wife, she helps me, with my production company and my businesses. And then she's also a real estate agent or a realtor, so she has that going on. And then with me, I just have always, just always coming up with new things like the book project, and then of course working on other people's projects
Well, I want to shout out Teresa real quick because she's always kind of been my in to you, and she's great. So thank you to Teresa for helping set this up. And Vaughn, yeah, it's been really cool watching him come of age with all this too. Can I ask you to I hope this question doesn't embarrass you, but can we rattle off like some of the songs that you've been able to put together in the last 10 years since Power? Because there's been some amazing opportunities, and I think I think that's the thing that people don't recognize about you is I think this is something I see all the time in covering Dallas artists. I think there's kind of this long-standing belief that like no one locally cares who you are until you break out. But I don't know that that's the truth with you, because people did know who Strange Fruit was because y'all were playing shows and y'all were really hustling. And then I think like once the Power thing happened and you're out, working with these major celebrities and major artists, to a degree, I think some of Dallas lost track of what you were up to, and maybe didn't realize that. I've even seen it in some of the comments here, like these people being like, "This guy did Power, what?" Yeah. So yeah. I mean, would you mind just rattling off some of the bigger songs you've had throughout the years, or maybe we could do a tour of the plaques behind you?
Oh, I actually could do that. I mean, yeah, I got my phone. So
Let's do it. Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. So what is this? Is this your office?
Yeah, so this is my office. It's a little dirty, but yeah, so I just have like my plaques on the walls, so yeah, right there. I did some work on Lorde's album.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
It was 2 songs on there that I was a part of.
Wow.
Yeah, that Beyonce single, Best Thing I Never Had, that was from the 4 album.
Which is an incredible ballad.
And then Drake's More Life had a song on there called Ice Melts.
Unbelievable.
That I did. Eminem's Kamikaze album.
With that Beastie Boys artwork that he lifted. I love it.
Yeah, I had 2 songs on there. One was with my producer, Lone Star Music, who's from Dallas as well.
And then also, isn't that the one with the Sarah Jaffe song on it too?
No, that was this one.
So okay.
So that's the Eminem, Marshall Mathers LP2, and that's the one with Sarah Jaffe, Bad Guy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
and you mentioned Lone Star, right? Because you collaborate with Lone Star and Jay Rhodes a lot, right?
Yeah. So Jay Rhodes was he was like one of the first producers I signed. Like when things started to take off and I started to build my production company. So I was doing a lot of stuff with him back then. And now Lone Star is part of the team. So he's been helping me with a bunch of things. And yeah, like I said, he was on this Eminem Kamikaze album.
That's dope.
Right there. And then I have some Grammy certificates. The Yeezus joint. Yeezus, I did a joint on Yeezus called Guilt Trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was Guilt Trip. Let's see, what else we got? Okay, and then over here, of course, you got the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy that we talked about. And then the Watch the Throne did a song called Murder to Excellence.
Incredible song. Now, that's a song with like a kind of 2-part thing.
Yeah, 2-part. I did the second part, and Swiss Beats did the first part.
Which is amazing to work with Swiss.
Yeah. Super talented guy. Legend. And then like Logic.
Logic, man.
Logic album. I did 2 songs on his first album, and then we have like Lil Uzi. I did a song with TM88
I
on
mean,
that on that
okay.
project.
S1, I mean, that's just an incredible roster of acts, right? I appreciate the tour. That's so cool. Let me ask you a quick question about that, though, because I've heard a rumor. I don't know, but like the business of these, how do you get like the actual record? Is it the label sends it to you? Do you have to buy it? How does that all work?
Oh, you talking about with the plaques?
Yeah, the plaques. Yeah.
Yeah, man. You have to buy them yourself.
Yeah, but
I heard like prior to me getting major plaques that sometimes the label used to buy them at some point, but once the industry started to kind of shift a little bit, they like, nah, you gotta buy them yourself.
Well, okay, so like, but was that ever a question for you, or were you like, I'm getting this?
Oh yeah, I had to get it. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's what you were dreaming of as a kid, right?
Absolutely, man. And now they didn't gone up so much. Like I think I'm like 7 or 8 plaques behind that I haven't ordered yet. But the price is going up so much. It's like
Can you imagine?
I kind of just get a couple every now and then.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine telling yourself in 2001 that you had 8 plaques coming, that you were just like, oh, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll get around to it.
Nah, but it's been a blessing, man. Because like I said, prior to having these plaques, I used to always, of course, have a dream of having my first platinum or even gold plaques.
Yeah.
So once I did the Kanye song, I kind of was like, okay, this is probably gonna be my first plaque. So my first 2 was from the album and the song.
Well, let me just tell you, that little tour you just did was like the coolest thing. I love it. I'm seeing the hearts come up on the screen. People really got a kick out of that too. I think it's just wild to just realize the volume of talents that you've worked with. I think we talked a lot about the Kanye song, but is there not like, I think that's a very special one to you for a number of obvious reasons that we've touched on. But just looking around that room, which just must be a wild thing to sit down and maybe probably, I don't know, it might be a little bit of pressure, but it's probably some inspiration too. But when you look around that room, do you think of a specific album in there that does mean a lot to you beyond Power? Is there one that stands out, or I mean, I know they're all your babies, right?
Yeah, they really are. I would say.
I think. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just seeing like Lorde on there is really cool because that's a little outside of you.
Absolutely, yeah. That definitely was one because that was.
You're obviously capable of it, but it's not what people would necessarily associate.
Absolutely, and that was one of my goals as well. I never wanted to be pigeonholed as just working on hip hop songs.
Yeah.
Because I always felt that I had, a gift of being able to have some type of range, and even though I may not be like a straight pop producer, like I felt like I could contribute some elements that could make it work and be a little bit different from what the typical was, so that was one of my goals. So, that I would say something like that, even like the Beyonce record, I think that really,
that's a ballad. That's an R&B song / even pop song.
Yeah.
So I remember when that first came out, I was like, when it first came out,
that record really gave me the confidence to be like, okay, maybe I can step outside this and really, make an impact in that world.
Did you get to work in the studio with Beyonce on that too, or was it more just like that?
I did.
Can we talk about what that was like?
Yeah, so I met Beyonce in the Watch the Throne sessions because she was always with Jay-Z. And she liked what I was doing with them, so she approached me one day and she was like, "Yo, I love what you're doing. You mind coming out to New York at the top of the year to help me with my album?" So January the 2nd, I got the call from her. Her assistant was like, "Beyonce wants you in New York." So I went out there and I stayed out there for a week with her in the studio every day. And we did like 6 songs.
Okay.
Yeah, did like 5 or 6 songs. And I had my guy, Caleb Sean with me, who's an incredible musician, producer. Yeah, he helped me on the song.
He's a Dallas guy. right?
What's that?
Isn't Caleb a Dallas guy?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible guy. So yeah, we worked on the song, man, and we did those songs, and 2 songs made the top 20, and then when they decided the album, they kept that song, Best Thing I Never Had, and wind up making it the second single from that album.
What's she like in the studio setting?
Oh, she's amazing. Like
Yeah.
she's literally one of the hardest workers I've ever worked with. She will go in the booth and cut 8 songs and all vocals, and won't leave the booth until she's done with it. And she's so precise. Like
Well, what does
everything
that
she
mean to
does
be
is
a hard worker in the studio? Because I know, not everyone has had the chance to be in the studio and see what goes on there. So, like, when you say she's a hard worker, what does that mean?
that means that she knows what she wants, and she won't leave the studio until she's able to formulate and fulfill that vision, her vision. So like if we're in the studio at noon and she has to cut these songs and get all the backgrounds and the ad libs and the leads right, she's not going to leave the studio until she's perfectly satisfied with those.
And is that in terms of like writing, or is that just vocal takes, or what are we talking?
It's whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. So when you do work with an artist, though, I mean, Kanye and Beyonce, you got to go to the studio with them,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't always happen, right?
No, that doesn't always happen. Like Drake, I wasn't in the studio with Drake. I was in the studio with Lorde, so I went to New York and I was there for like 3 days with her.
Okay.
Wasn't in the studio with Eminem.
So then what is that collaboration like? Is that literally they're just performing on top of your beat, or are they sending you back files?
Yeah, it's just sending back files through email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like asking for tweaks, or like being like,
Yeah,
hey, here's what
back
we
and forth
got.
till
What do
we
you
get it
think?
right. You usually
Yeah.
sending the beat off. They write the song, they record it, and sometimes artists will send it back and be like, you can produce it out. Most of the times now, once the artist gets on it, they kind of get the demo-itis of liking what they hear at that moment, and they don't want to touch it. So it's like, this is going out, like this is done.
Did you
Send
say
me the
demo
file
itis?
so we can mix it and ship it out.
I like that word, demo-itis.
Yes.
I mean, that must drive you a little crazy as a beat maker and perfectionist.
Yeah, you know what? It used to bother me because I used to like to produce things out and add
Yeah.
little tweaks here and there, but now it's kind of the thing. So I try to make sure that at least the production is somewhat where I want it before I send it out to the artist.
So then, so I think this is another thing that people don't necessarily realize about the life of a producer,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly like a hip hop producer. Like, how much are you like with the Kanye thing? You wrote a beat, and then you went to him, and he took it, and it's kind of same with the Beyonce thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that was a song you kind of wrote with Rhymefest in mind, but how much of it is you writing with people in mind, or writing in mind with people who reached out to you, versus you just getting in the studio and banging out a track because you've got a song in your head?
Yeah, it's kind of it kind of works in either way.
Okay.
Sometimes it may be, okay, specifically this week I'm working on just joints for Eminem, or it could be just like this week I'm just creating, and that's usually the best stuff that comes out when I don't have these creative limitations. And it's like, just get out and just get it out, just get the ideas out, and then from there I can be like, okay, this sounds like this could be for this artist, or this sounds like this could be for this artist. But most of the time, I don't know who's gonna like what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever been really surprised by someone liking something?
All the time. And what
do you make a point to send them stuff maybe across the spectrum for that reason?
Yeah, just for that reason. Like most of the time when I have a batch and I'm sending to a specific artist, I'll always throw like 3 or 4 wild cards that I don't think I can't hear them on, and usually they gravitate towards those.
Why do you think that is? Is it because you're like testing them?
No, I think most of the time artists are looking for something that kind of challenged them, or or they're evolving to step out from what they did prior. So you never know what's going to inspire an artist or what's going to stick with an artist. So you have to kind of be able to, because everything is a shot in the dark, really. You know,
Yeah.
we don't know what space or what creative space or vibe the artist is on. So you have to kind of have a palette of colors, different colors, to be able to send to them so they can kind of see what connects with them most.
So we mentioned at the top of this that, you know, at the very beginning of kind of quarantine, life didn't necessarily change too much for you because you were being locked up in the studio anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Can you reveal to us what you were working on? Was it with certain artists, anyone in particular, or was it really just like creative process stuff?
I mean, it's certain artists, but then at the same time, it's like random artists too.
Okay. But it
just,
wasn't just you writing to write.
no, or
Okay.
majority not.
Okay.
Mostly for that 2 weeks, it was mostly let me just get in here and see and try to make the best music that I possibly can. And then once it's made, I can be like, okay, I'm sending this to them, I'm sending this to this artist, see if they're gonna like it. And and it was great. Like people started hitting back, and it really built some momentum, because the one thing about this time that we've been into, artists have been at home, and most of them now have their own setups. So they're just recreating. So, you know, we're getting a lot of songs done.
That's really interesting, because I think, like, you know, things are going to shift because of what we're going through in a number of ways, right? I think one clear way that my world is already shifting and that I'm seeing things shift is embracing video technology. I mean, I don't know if you've been on Zoom meetings like everybody else has, but like,
I had one today.
yeah, but like 10 weeks ago, that would have been a phone call.
Yep.
But now, because the technology exists, we're doing the Zoom meeting. So technology is changing some of what's going on. It sounds like you think that some of the, like, are people just becoming more tech savvy in the music world? Like, as far as the music, you're like, yeah, I wonder if you can just pontificate some on how this situation is changing the music creation process and how it might shape it moving forward.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I think, and I've always said this, I feel like in today's time, if you're an artist or a songwriter and you can't record your own vocals, you are slowing yourself down so much, because the key thing is not being self-sufficient enough to not have to rely on people. So you don't want to be put in a situation to where things happen like this, to where you can't go to the studio and you're not able to record anything. So the artists and the songwriters who have learned Pro Tools and learned and figured out a vocal chain for their voice and bought them a mic and able to receive records and just cut every day, they're the ones that's gonna win. And I feel like now? This is the time to where that's showing up. The artists that learn that skill, you know, they're the ones that's coming out on top.
So you think the artists who have that ability and that stick to it, there's like theirs who's gonna shine in 2021?
Yep, that's right. Yeah. Because because you got to think about it, the people that can't record themselves, like, they have to find somewhere to go, and things are shut down.
They aren't open.
People, you're not able to be around people and around engineers or in the studio, so you're just trying to figure things out.
Well, that seems really fortunate for you, as someone who is self-sufficient, who's got the space at his home, who has done this kind of collaboration. Maybe your world, beyond the restrictions of going out, which I think we're all dealing with.
Yeah.
It sounds like your world, maybe the world's catching up to you a little bit, but your world isn't necessarily changing too much. Is that how you're looking at things, or are there ways that you're going to have to change what you're doing?
I mean, I think it's a matter of both.
Okay.
You know, I think that, yes, you know, I'm pretty self-sufficient, and I have a system to where I can still be able to create every day and be able to fulfill different things or demands or things for people. And I think that's because I have a lot of different things going on, you know, whether it's production or whether it's, you know, organizing other things or building, you know, I have some other little ventures that I'm working on as well. So I'm kind of bouncing around between things. But at the same time, it also has me thinking about how things are going to be, you know, for the future. And now I'm trying to think ahead. You know,
Like
I think
strategize?
I gotta be able to strategize and think ahead how things are going to be in the next 6 months, you know,
Is there like I know I'm seeing a lot of like fans of yours and then just names I recognize from like the Dallas hip hop scene in the comments here. Is there like, I mean, I like the home studio idea, and I think maybe some people have the idea that it has to be super expensive equipment. It doesn't
absolutely,
necessarily, I think. But is
absolutely not.
there like is there one thing, like one thought that you have that like a word of wisdom to these people, like something you're thinking of that might be beneficial for them to think about too,
I mean,
moving forward?
the first thing I would say, just learn like whatever you're trying to accomplish or whatever you're trying to do, make sure that you know it like the back of your hand. I think that's the key, is being able to um, use this time, this downtime, to create
Yeah,
product, songs, beats, whatever it is you're doing. Create. So when things lift, you already have this palette of you know, of product that's ready to go. You
yeah,
know, and I think that's like the most important thing, and that's what I've been able to I've been able to translate that to actual work, and have these
cool.
things and be able to create a timeline to be like, okay, this month I'm releasing this month I'm working on this, you know, and just having that, because I think that's what's going to keep you going and keep the
Yeah.
momentum going,
Well,
even
and
when
obviously,
things stop.
yeah, and the organization that you just alluded to, I think, is another major thing. Um, is there something, you know, I know you, as someone who's been observing the Dallas rap scene and really just the Dallas music scene now for the 20 years you've been involved in it. I mean, how do you feel about the way things were heading into this and then the way things might be after it? I mean, do you have any initial thoughts on that?
I mean, I think, I mean, and I think personally, I think it's we all are affected. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing I have to say. Like, everyone's kind of in the same. It kind of put everybody on the same playing field, really.
Yeah, like S1 with all these plaques behind him isn't necessarily different than Joe Schmo in his bedroom who's producing for his best friend. I mean, maybe a little bit.
Oh man,
But no, but I know what
yeah,
you're saying.
I feel like everybody's put back on the same playing field. So now it's a matter of figuring out what it is that you're trying to do, or what it is that your lane is going to be, or your um you know, what's going to be your strategy, you know, when things are close to, because I don't think things will be exactly normal of how it was. I really think that things are shifting and things are evolving, so you have to be ahead of that and think, kind of see
Yeah.
where things are going, so you can be able to um uh maximize, you know, maximize
Well,
where
I
things
know
want to get ahead of it.
one thing that I'm really concerned about, and we're going to have news on Central Track this week about a couple of venues that
Hmm.
aren't going to be able to survive all
Yeah.
this. I know just hearing your thoughts early on in this conversation about, you know, working with Erykah on those concerts.
Hmm.
How do you feel about the thought of just going out to a live show? Like, does that scare you a little bit?
At this point, it definitely does scare me. And
Yeah. I mean, do you think we
they've
can
been
get back to that?
gradually. What was that?
Do you think we can get back to a point where you won't be?
I mean, I think over time we will, but I don't think it's in the near future. Yeah,
Yeah.
I personally don't think that.
Yeah, I think that that's the scariest thing about
Yeah.
it. Because I think the live aspect of music is just so integral to it.
Hmm.
You know, it's like music is such part of everybody's life, and then there's such a great catharsis in
Yeah.
the live performance and
Yeah.
live reception of it.
Absolutely. And you know, they have you know, people are doing the virtual shows, which are great
Yeah,
because you know, they're just basically using that platform, but there's nothing like the energy from a live show.
yeah, yeah. I
You
hope
know.
we can get back to it. I think someone in the comments says maybe not till 2021. That's kind of a lot of what I'm hearing too.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Um,
that too.
Hey, S1, real quick. I don't want to keep you too much longer because we've been going for a long time, but I've got 15 seconds left and I have a few more questions.
Okay.
Can you rejoin after it boots and then we'll be done in the next 10 minutes?
Okay.
So it's going to boot us in like 5 seconds, but I'm going to end and then just let's rejoin and then we'll close out.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
Hi, folks. I'm Pete Friedman, the founder and publisher of CentralChat.com. We are wrapping up a interview with the really legendary Symbolyc one. I hope that's been getting across here. Man, just some great stories we've been hearing already about Kanye West and Beyonce and all these other people that he's been working with. I want to give him a chance to talk to us a little bit about the book that he's been putting out, which is a really interesting thing that I think might speak to why he's able to maintain such a positive outlook throughout this time. So, as soon as he it looks like he's back on the page, he's sending the request, so we'll hop right back into it. There he is. We're back after a commercial break, right? After a quick commercial break. Hey, no, so yeah, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. You've been very, very gracious with the time you have, but I didn't want to end, and I got the time ending, like warning. I didn't want to end without touching on just kind of two last things, because one, you were talking about Jay Rhodes and Lone Star and some of your collaborators earlier. I think that's something that's really special about Dallas is there is kind of a producer scene that I've noticed going on. And then you've also got like my buddy Cardo, who's like
Cardo's
Fort Worth.
Cardo's killing it right now.
So like how often do y'all are y'all in communication, you and Cardo, and obviously you are with Lone Star and you know your crew, but Dallas has established itself a little bit as like this island, you know, outside of New York and LA, and maybe outside of your Atlantas and even Houston's. Mm-hmm. But Dallas is like really, I think maybe even more so than its rappers, getting a lot of shine these days for its producers. That's how I feel as a Dallasite who's writing about this stuff. I wonder if that's accurate from your perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm super proud of the whole Dallas community. You know, of course, like you say, Cardo is doing his thing, man. That's my guy. And then also Jay White. Jay White did it. He's having mega success.
So just so people don't, so Cardo has got joints with like, I mean, he came up with like Wiz
and Drake.
Yeah, and he did that huge Drake song last year. The one that was wild, with the giving people away with the money on the beach.
Huge.
God's plan. God's plan.
God's plan. That's it.
God's plan. And then Jay White did the first big Cardi B single, and then he also did with Bobby Sessions the new Meg Thee Stallion single, Savage. Do you talk to these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to them every now and then. You know, we don't talk like every day, but man, it's so much. The respect level is so high between us, and one thing I love about them, and then just everybody else in the Dallas community is like we really all be rooting for each other. We all encourage each other, and when we see each other, we give them props, and I think that's the biggest thing that I really love is just. Because there's room for everyone to win, you know, and once people get that, like it's gonna get even bigger, realizing that there is enough room. The world is a big place to where we are not shy of, or there's not a lack of opportunities. Everyone just have to be able to put in the work and realize that everything is God's timing, and God's timing is different for everyone, so it's just a matter of just understanding that. But one thing I do know is that most of the Dallas producers who I'm associated with, they totally get that. And like I said, we are a community because we all rooting for each other, and we all encourage and motivate each other when we see each other.
I think it'd be really cool to get like a S1 Jay White Cardo collab.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
I think that'd be nuts.
That would be stupid.
So, it'd be stupid. It really would be. Are there you know, beyond the producers, I mean, you know, you collaborate with Sarah Jaffe. You know, you two are in the Dividends.
Yep.
You do seem to work with a stable of local musicians,
Mm-hmm.
and I know Vaughn does too. I think a little bit.
Yep.
Are there any talents in Dallas that you are maybe watching a little bit?
Yeah. This rapper by the name of Derek Scott.
Okay, I don't know
Super,
Derek
super
Scott.
incredible artist, and he's like kind of uh, one of my special projects who I've
Okay,
been, yeah, working on music with, and I'm just excited. Like he's one of the artists that when I work with him, I'm always excited to work with him
yeah,
because he always does whatever we're working on, he does it justice. And he makes
yeah.
it exciting, and he you know, so I love to work with him, and that's what I want to be from this point on. Like that's one of the things that's really been directing me with who to work with. I want to be
Yeah.
excited about what I'm working on and who I'm working with, and not just
Yeah.
working just to say I did a beat for this artist or produce for this artist, but I really want to have a connection with that artist and be able to be excited about what we're working with and what I'm contributing to that project.
I think that's really important, and I think that's another thing that maybe younger artists don't know. And I think it's something that, you know, you spoke to with the other stories you told about you climbing your way up.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's so important to be a willing and friendly and engaging collaborator,
Mm-hmm.
and not just take anything for granted and kind of let the ego drop. And I know you think you're like the top dog rapper in your
Mm-hmm.
city, but there's got to be more to it than that, and people have to like working with you.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. That's been a lot of my career. Just people being able to, me not being a butthole, and people, yeah, just people enjoy working with me, and vice versa.
Yeah,
Like I have a pretty good judge of character to know, be able to feel people's energy, and I base things off of that, like who I'm working with, so yeah, that has a big part to do with it as well. Like how do you connect with the person that you're working with?
yeah.
Do you guys have the same things in common, and all that matters in creating in the art.
I kind of asked this before, and I don't know if we got the answer. And if you don't want to say, that's fine. But is there anything? We'll get to the book. The next question. That's the
Okay.
next question. But what else is coming up? Like, do you have music coming out or anything that's out right now that people should be on the lookout for?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of music I've been working on. I don't know I'll go ahead and say like the new Lecrae album.
Oh, cool.
I did work on that. And then I got some other artists that I've been working really strong with, but I rather not say who
Yeah,
until.
because you don't know if it'll make the
Yeah,
final cut and
exactly,
everything.
exactly, man.
I
So,
mean, you must have a treasure trove of songs that like almost made a cut.
oh, more songs, more songs have not made the cut than
Oh,
than
sure.
have made the cut.
Yeah, but I mean, when that happens, do you retain the rights to that and you can try it with someone else?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Unless they tell me, sometimes artists be like, "Hey, I didn't use this." Like for instance, the Guilt Trip joint from Yeezus. Like
Okay.
we did that for we did that song for Watch the Throne, and
Okay.
it didn't make the Watch the Throne album. But Kanye was like,
Oh.
"Yo, hold this song for me because I want to use this for my album." So he wound up putting it on Yeezus.
Is that all just like gentleman's agreement, or does that stuff get put on paper?
Well, with that song, it was just like he told me that, so
Okay. So you're like, you
just
got
like,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he had first dibs on everything, so I just held it and was
Well,
excited about it.
one thing that it's out right now, the book, right?
Yes.
So, okay, let's talk about that because
Okay.
that's, I think one thing I've always known about you, and it's always such a pleasure running into you. And we ran into each other not too
All the
long ago
time. Yeah.
At the Erykah birthday, just in mid-February, right? So it hasn't been too long, and it's always a thrill to see you. And I can understand why people enjoy collaborating with you because you're just such a fun guy to run into. But I think another thing that contributes to that is your greater perspective. I mean, you are I don't think I'm talking out of turn by saying you're a deeply religious man. Um, And I mean, pray is the first word in your book, in the
Yeah,
book
yeah.
title.
Pray is definitely the first word in my book, and I wouldn't say I like to stay away from saying religious.
Okay.
I'm more of a spiritual guy,
Okay,
and
that's fair.
I am a believer. You know,
Yeah.
a believer in Christ. So yeah, that's really the foundation.
How has that influenced your career first, and then secondly, is that something you're leaning on in this difficult time?
Oh, ask the question again.
Well, first, how much would you say your spirituality has influenced your career?
Oh, it's been everything to my career. Like I say, that's my foundation.
Yeah.
So that's been how I've approached everything.
Yeah.
And you know, with my book, Pray, Focus, Plan, Execute, um, it's really during probably like when things started to really jump off of me and the kind, you know, these big records start to happen. It was me really trying to figure out why that happened, and I started to
Yeah.
reflect back on certain situations, and I realized that all four of these things were present in every situation that was happening for me. So it became more of my mantra, you know, and my
Pray, focus,
you know,
plan,
it became
execute.
more than just words. Yeah, because every situation I was always praying and talking to God, and I was always focusing, you know, eliminating those distractions, always
Yeah.
planning, always writing writing things down and having a plan. But then also the last thing is execution, and
Yeah.
the execution of the ideas and the planning,
Yeah.
and that's basically scripture as well, because that's basically just saying, you know, faith without works is dead. You know, I can
Yeah.
plan all day, I can pray all day, I can focus, but if I'm not applying that action, then none of
Yep.
that works.
I really like that. I appreciate that it's a balance of everything. You can't
Yes,
just totally put your faith in a higher power. You have to follow through on it yourself. And the
absolutely.
execute thing is a big thing. That's something I preach a lot all the time to
Yeah.
young artists and young writers too.
Mhm.
Follow through is like everything in this world,
Yes, it
right? It's
really
like
is. It's everything.
you can't just talk on an idea. Like you got to try the idea,
Yeah,
and you got to keep trying the idea. Like
yeah,
stick to itiveness, like
yeah,
they say in
and that's
sports.
something I learned early on with the, you know, with my group Symbolic Elements prior to Strange Fruit Project,
Okay.
and then with the Strange Fruit Project, like it was a matter of trying things and seeing what worked, and when things worked, you know, it gave me more confidence to try more things, and you just keep trying things and keep planting these seeds everywhere, and then you realize that, you know, it may not come back when you expect it, but at some
Yeah.
point things will come back, and that's exactly what happened with me. You know, whether it was a year later or 5 years later or 10 years later, things that I had planted a while back started to come back, you know, at
Yeah, and
the time.
like, so the second part of the question I was asking before was how your spirituality is helping you through like these trying times right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like it's probably a mixture of both of all those things as well. It's right, like you were prepared and thus able to endure this moment. Is that
Yeah,
fair? Or how?
absolutely, man. And one thing that people got to realize is like I'm no different from anyone else. Like even with the achievements that I've been able to been blessed with, um, I still have those moments of being down and discouraged. But
Yeah,
because I've been there so many times, I know how to overcome those situations, and I know that it's just part, and that will never go away. No matter how successful you become, like you're still gonna have those type of uh moments and emotions, and you're still gonna go through things. No one's exempt from that, you know. So once you understand that, it's like, okay, there may be a different level of things that you go through, but it's all really the same thing, you know. So once you learn how principles work and how things don't last always, it's just a matter of you pushing through those moments and
yeah,
overcoming it. You know, you'll be able to, when it shows back up, you know how to treat it. You
yeah.
know,
I
so
think
I
that's an
feel like
important.
that's what's been my career, is just knowing that, okay, you're gonna be up for a moment, but at some point you got to come back down and
Yeah,
figuring it out, refiguring things out to get back to that point.
and I think you have to zoom out and have the perspective that like the tough times aren't always going to be the tough times, and
That's
sometimes
right.
the great times aren't always going to be the great times either. Like
Yes.
there was a I'm not going to say the exact quote because I'm going to botch it because I don't remember it exactly, but there's something to the effect of like, sometimes just like you got to focus on like, we're all in these bad moments sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
when you get out of you climb out of it, right? And the next time you're in a bad moment, you can look back on the last time you're in a bad moment and remember that you climbed out of it, and just keep
Yep.
focusing on that and focus on the climbing out and the
Yeah,
positive.
focus on the good. Focus on the
Yeah.
positive, man.
So where can people get your book, S1?
Yeah, so the hard copy of the book, it's available on my site, symbolycone.com. That's SYMBOLYCONE. So yeah, we have the physicals, and then also the ebooks are on Amazon,
Okay.
Apple Books,
Cool.
yeah, barnesandnoble.com. And then I just released my audiobook last week, which came out super dope because I'm really, the feedback on it has been amazing because
So is there music involved somehow in that?
so that's what I was gonna say. So
Okay.
I narrated the book all the way through. I had my good friend Ron Fest. He came in and he narrated my about the author, and then me and my one of my good friends who I work with a lot. His name is Kelvin Wooden. He's a amazing producer and composer. He came in, he helped me compose the audiobook. So it's like scored. It's like scored. So
Are
it's
you
basically
talking
scored.
over like dead
The
music?
transitions are scored, and then there's like unreleased beats on it, and it came out
That's
super dope.
cool. Now, are you legally allowed to use like songs you reference in the audiobook?
Yeah, so because all the songs are original.
Okay, so
Yeah,
like
so
when
we
you're talking
compose. It's
about
like
power,
it's
are
100%
you able to go
original
through?
composed songs and original beats that I
That's
created.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's real. I think that sounds like the way to consume the book.
Yes.
So where do you get the audiobook? Is
So
that
you
on
get
your
the
site?
audiobook at Amazon or audible.com. Amazon.com
Cool.
or audible.com. Yep.
Well, hey, man, this has been such a joy. I'm so thankful for you taking the time. I think we went way longer than I told Teresa we would.
Oh,
But
it's cool, man. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure just talking to you always and catching up. And we always run into each other, but we don't always get the chance to talk like on the deep level, like professional level. So it's been really great, and we've been getting really great feedback throughout here. So I think people really
I
appreciate it.
appreciate you too, Pete, man. Like you were saying earlier, man, you've always been just a genuine supporter. So I always appreciate that, and I don't take that for granted. And I appreciate your work and your art as well.
Thanks, man. Well, that means a lot. Let's stay in touch. To everyone who's watching, just know that we are Central Track, which is my company, is going to keep doing these things. We're going to be doing them Monday through Wednesday, every night at 8 o'clock. I've got the editor of the morning news tomorrow, which is pretty cool.
That's dope.
So we're going to talk about like media coverage of all this stuff.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody tuned in too. Big up Sick With It. That's my guy, Sick With It. That's my guy too.
Yeah, what's up, Sick With It? Another very successful and talented producer.
Yeah, super producer, man. That's my guy, man. I love Sick With It.
Yeah.
And then somebody said Apple, there's audiobook on Apple. So the first 2 months is just Amazon and Audible, and then after that it will go to Apple iBooks as well. Apple Books.
Well, definitely follow Symbolyc One on all his platforms. I think it's just SYMBOLYCONE.
Yep.
One word, no underscores or anything?
Just one word. Yeah, just one word.
Well, I'm sure you'll keep people posted on when it's available on all platforms.
Yes.
Please keep me posted too, and we'll do what we can to share. But again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Larry for your time. And we'll stay in touch, man. I hope you and your family stay safe and healthy, and just that you were able to get through this together, man. So thank you so much.
Big up Reezy Tunes and El Chive. I see y'all too, man.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk soon. And have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Peace.